First story. My entitled son got detention for having an involuntary erection and defending himself from bullying girls. So I grounded him, forced him to write apology letters, made him read out how disgusting his behavior was, and ensured the detention would be registered on his record. Now he abandoned me. I don't know where I went wrong. My son Elliot, 13, is academically gifted. His school has him projected for straight 8s and 9s in his GCSEs. But for everything he's got in intelligence, he lacks in emotional control, social maturity, and what concerns me most, personal accountability. He was bullied a bit in year 6 and early year 7, which led to him becoming withdrawn. I was sympathetic initially. We got him into therapy, encouraged hobbies, and supported his transition into secondary school. But it's becoming increasingly clear that Elliot has started to weaponize his past bullying or awkwardness as an excuse to dodge any uncomfortable situation. He lives week on, week off between me and his dad. I've always been the stricter parent. His dad is more understanding, which often turns into enabling. That difference was the source of a huge fight recently, and the reason I'm writing this. Last week, in PD Personal Development, Elliot had a group project where each student had to design a children's toy and then pitch it in front of the class. It was essentially a mock entrepreneurial task: presentation skills, creativity, problem solving, all things he needs to develop. He was very into it. He designed a board game, printed cards, and even rehearsed his speech at home. We thought he was ready. Then on Friday afternoon, I get a call saying Elliot's been issued a C3 detention for refusing to participate in class. Not just refusal, but flat-out noncompliance. It's the most serious level of school-issued discipline outside suspensions. I was shocked. This is a child who'd been obsessed with this project for weeks. When I picked him up, he looked guilty but sullen. I asked him what happened. He gave me a half excuse. I asked the teacher to go later, but she said no. I didn't refuse, I just couldn't go then. I pushed him. Why not? Was someone laughing at him? Did someone steal his materials? Had he lost his cue cards? Eventually, after being asked 3 separate times, he muttered under his breath, "I had a random erection, and it wouldn't go down." I stared at him, waiting for more. That was it. That was his excuse. Apparently, just before his turn, he got an erection randomly, according to him, and that's why he couldn't present. I was floored. The fact that he thought this was a valid excuse is what disturbed me most. Not embarrassment, not anxiety, but a bodily impulse he acted like he had no responsibility over. I told him, clearly and directly, that this was not acceptable. He looked stunned, like he expected sympathy. He said he couldn't help it. I said, "You could help how you handled it. You could have gone up, done your presentation, kept the board in front of you, or even asked to step out briefly and come back. But you didn't. You decided that your personal discomfort gave you a pass on responsibility." He got defensive. Started saying things like, "You don't understand. I wasn't having it." He knew exactly what he was doing. I told him I was disgusted. Later that evening, I called his father. I told him what Elliot said and how I was handling it. He immediately took Elliot's side. He said I was shaming him, that it's a biological thing, and that I was being cold. He said boys get random erections all the time during puberty, and that Elliot probably panicked. No, that's not good enough. Boys also get urges to shout, slam doors, and punch walls. That doesn't mean we let them. Teaching boys that their impulses are beyond their control is how we end up with boys who grope girls as a joke, or make excuses like, "I couldn't help myself." That's exactly the road I see this going down. If we don't correct it now, it becomes a pattern. I didn't mean to make her uncomfortable. I couldn't stop staring. I was just joking. No, not in my house. So I decided he was going to face real consequences. I removed all his privileges: no phone, no iPad, no games, no after-school clubs. He now has school, homework, chores, meals, and journaling. That's it. I made him write 3 separate apology letters. To his teacher, for being insubordinate and refusing to participate. To me, for having an attitude and acting entitled when I pressed him. To his grandmother, my mother, because when she came over that evening to talk to him, he gave her sarcastic one-word answers and rolled his eyes while she spoke. And I don't mean those "sorry, not sorry, I guess I upset you" letters. He had to sit down and rewrite them until they showed real reflection. He complained it was embarrassing. I said, "Good. It's meant to be." Then I made him start a daily journal, which I check every night. Each day, he must write what happened that day, what he did wrong, why it was wrong. what he will do next time. And a final section, apology to myself, where he must acknowledge, in writing, how disgusting and disrespectful his behavior was. Yes, it's awkward. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But it's working. For the first time, he's being made to sit with what he's done instead of running from it. My mother, bless her, was the one who said, "If you don't teach a boy how to manage himself, the world will punish him 10 times harder." She's right. And this is me choosing to teach him now before it's too late. This wasn't a one-off issue either. People love to jump in and say, "Oh, he's just 13. His brain isn't done developing." I'm not buying that anymore. This isn't about his brain. This is about his attitude, and it's been building. There have been smaller moments in the past that I shrugged off, which I shouldn't have. Back in July, Elliot snapped at his younger cousin, she's 10, for wanting to join in on a board game he was setting up with some of his friends. He told her, loudly, in front of everyone, "You're too young. You'll just ruin it." When I pulled him aside, he said she was annoying and didn't apologize until his uncle stepped in. There's a pattern. Disrespect, followed by minimizing, then guilt-tripping if anyone holds him accountable. And every time someone lets it slide, he feels more untouchable. After his letters and journaling started, he tried a different tactic, sulking. For 2 straight days, he moped around like he was the one being wronged. Refused to eat dinner unless spoken to, answered everything with "fine" or "whatever." He even whispered once that I was being mean for no reason. So I added another page to his daily writing. I had him reflect on the term entitlement, what it means, how it shows up, and how he's acted entitled to comfort, validation, and freedom from consequence. The fact that his father continues to defend him only reinforces the problem. Last Sunday, Elliot texted him from the iPad he was not allowed to be using, which I later confiscated again, and told him that he was being punished for puberty. His dad texted me a long paragraph about how this kind of emotional shaming leads to long-term damage. I didn't respond. Because I don't care about short-term embarrassment if it means he learns now before the real world chews him up and spits him out. You don't get to opt out of responsibilities because your body does something inconvenient. That's the lesson. My mom doubled down too. She came over again midweek to check in, and Elliot tried acting sweet. She shut that down fast. Told him, respect isn't something you switch on when it benefits you. She made him read his journal entries aloud, and when he flinched at the word disgusting, she stopped him and said, "You should flinch. That means you're finally hearing yourself." I also asked the school not to rescind the detention. His father wanted to fight it. I refused. I told them to leave it on his record. He earned it. If anything, I think the school handled it well. They gave him a clear choice: present now or take the consequence. He took the consequence. That's life. Elliot's finally stopped trying to spin the story. I think the gravity of the situation is starting to settle in. At the end of the week, I found an unscheduled journal entry he wrote. One line said, "I hate how I made Mom look at me." Good. That's not abuse, that's accountability. If he can feel that, he can change. But of course, now his father is accusing me of psychological control and forcing shame. Says he's going to bring it up with the custody mediator if I keep pushing Elliot this hard. I told him, flat out, go ahead. I'm not going to raise a son who walks through life thinking everyone owes him softness, especially when he behaves selfishly. Some of my friends are also starting to split on this. One told me privately that she thought I was being a little intense. Another said, "It's just puberty. He's a good kid." That's exactly the problem, the good kid label being used as an excuse for bad behavior. This isn't about whether he's a bad kid. It's about what kind of man he's becoming. I won't have him be the type of boy who thinks physical urges excuse bad behavior, or who makes girls feel uncomfortable and then says, "I didn't mean it that way," or who lashes out when corrected. That's how the cycle starts. So I've stuck to my decision. He's grounded for the next 2 weeks. No electronics, no socials, no screen time. His only contact is with me, my mom, and school. He's writing daily, reflecting daily, and earning back respect piece by piece. And when he goes to his dad's place next week, I've already told his father what the consequences are if he undoes everything, including seeking legal adjustments if necessary. This isn't about punishing him for growing up. This is about teaching him that growing up doesn't mean giving up responsibility. So here's the question I know is coming, but I'm ready to hear it anyway. Ada? Comments. Comment 1. Holy F. This is one of the most disturbing things I've read here in a while. You're projecting your own paranoia and control issues onto a 13-year-old kid going through a completely normal and deeply embarrassing puberty moment. He didn't flash anyone. He didn't disrupt class. He quietly asked to present later because he had a literal involuntary physical response he couldn't control, and you turned it into a criminal trial. You used words like disgusting, entitled, and abuse towards women. For what? Getting an erection in school and asking for 5 extra minutes to cool down. You made him write apology letters for being a teenager. Forced him to call himself disgusting in a journal like some twisted confession ritual. That's not accountability. That's psychological warfare. You're not raising a respectful boy. You're raising someone who's going to internalize shame so deep he either turns completely submissive or rebels in the worst way. I hope his dad does go to a mediator, because this is honestly bordering on emotional abuse. You should not be in charge of his sex education or social development if you treat puberty like a character defect. Comment 2. I'm a 21-year-old psych major, and I can tell you right now, what you're doing isn't building character. It's building shame wiring. You are conditioning your son to associate his normal bodily functions with moral failure. That's how sexual anxiety disorders form. That's how people end up with guilt during intimacy, repression, or fear they're inherently gross for having a body. You made him write an apology to himself for being disgusting. That's not reflective discipline. That's forcing him to adopt your disgust as his identity. That sticks. Also, FYI, erections can happen with zero sexual thought. They can be triggered by nervousness, temperature changes, shifting fabric, or literally just random hormonal surges. Forcing him to analyze it through a lens of guilt isn't making him responsible. It's creating sexual shame. I guarantee you, he's not going to remember this as the time he learned accountability. He's going to remember his mom looked at him like a monster for being 13. YTA. Comment 3. YTA. I've got 2 teenage boys, 14 and 16. I get it, kids will push boundaries, get attitudes, and act entitled sometimes. Parenting means shutting that down when needed. But what you did wasn't a consequence. It was a full-blown crusade. You used words like disgusting, future abuser, and untouchable, and compared a kid's panic during a bodily malfunction to predatory escalation. That's a massive leap and says more about your mind than his character. You're not correcting him, you're vilifying him. Taking away screens? Fine. Making him apologize to the teacher? Reasonable. Having Granny come over and grill him? A bit much, but still okay. But forcing him to journal daily about how gross he is and read it out loud, while your mum shames him like a judge in a moral purity trial. That's not parenting. That's humiliation theater. You are not teaching him control. You're teaching him fear. And boys raised in fear have 2 paths. They either withdraw completely, or they explode. Because once they start believing they're a monster anyway, some decide they might as well act like one. You want to break a cycle? Cool. But right now, you're starting a new one, and your son is going to spend years recovering from it. If he ever fully does. Update. I've seen the comments on my previous post, and while many people completely misunderstood my intentions, I'm not here to argue with strangers. I'm here to clarify what actually happened since then, because everything has escalated in ways I honestly didn't expect, not because I was wrong, but because people around me reacted poorly to necessary discipline. After I enforced the journaling and apology letters, Elliot started acting compliant, but clearly resentful. I could tell he was performing remorse instead of understanding it. I decided to continue monitoring his writing long term. That's when he returned to school, and things escalated there. Apparently, a group of girls in his class whispered about him during group activities. One supposedly said, "Don't touch the toy. He probably gets off on it." This is obviously inappropriate, but instead of walking away or reporting it, Elliot lashed out and said, "At least I'm not some flat-chested BTCH who thinks she's funny." He got another C3 and is now flagged for gender-based hostility. The school said this may reflect deeper issues about how he views girls. I said I've already been addressing that, but clearly nobody wanted to acknowledge that I was trying to prevent exactly this. I used this incident to reinforce accountability. I extended the journaling, focusing on bodily control and emotional management. I added new writing prompts about respecting women and not resorting to degradation, which he clearly still struggles with. A few nights later, I found a sentence in his journal that said, "I don't want to exist if I'm always going to be like this." To me, that reads more like emotional manipulation than genuine self-harming ideation, especially given the timing right after consequences. Still, I made a note of it and had him write an additional paragraph about emotional responsibility versus dramatics. What I didn't expect was that during school reflection time, He apparently showed that same journal entry to a teacher. Instead of telling me or redirecting him, the teacher referred him immediately to the school counselor. I was called in for a meeting. The counselor said Elliot feels dehumanized and afraid of making mistakes because he will be labeled disgusting again. I responded that fear of consequences is part of moral development. They disagreed and said his emotional state may be unstable due to extreme pressure. They recommended emotionally safe environments and reducing punitive shame-based structures. I said I don't believe in raising boys who think biology is an excuse. That obviously didn't land well. 3 days later, we had a surprise visit from a safeguarding officer after the school filed a welfare concern. They asked about journals, apology letters, emotional language, and involvement of extended family in discipline. I calmly explained that in my household, emotional accountability is structured and guided. The officer remained neutral, but said some of my language may be internalized harmfully. She said they will follow up. My mum came over after the visit to talk to Elliot again. She tried to explain that respect is not a choice. During that conversation, she became short of breath and lightheaded. We had to call for medical attention, suspected stress-related episode. She's stable, but I know her exhaustion was triggered by Elliot's ongoing tension. He stood in the corner crying but saying nothing to her. 2 nights later, Elliot left the house after school without permission and went straight to his dad's. His father immediately texted me saying, "He is staying here. He told me everything. This is done." I told him removal without agreement violates custody terms. He said it's protective action. I contacted the appropriate channels, but was told not to forcibly remove Elliot given the ongoing welfare concerns until legal clarity is reached. Yesterday, I received notice that his father has filed for emergency custody, citing emotional harm. He included screenshots of parts of Elliot's journal, which he had no right to share, including lines where Elliot wrote, "I hate that mum wants me to hate myself." Obviously, that's not my instruction, that's his perception due to resistance to discipline. Now people around me are acting like I broke him. No. Elliot is now performing victimhood because it's the easiest escape from consequences. My mother is devastated. I am currently being portrayed as emotionally abusive simply because I believe teenage boys must learn early that physical impulses do not excuse behavior. Many of you in the original post accused me of sexual shaming. That is incorrect. I understand male biology. I am not ignorant. What I refuse to accept is the modern mindset that it just happens is the end of the conversation. You can't control the onset, but you can control the reaction. And if you teach a boy his reactions are inevitable, he will eventually believe his harm is justified by instinct. Elliot is with his father. There will be a hearing. Child Services will likely submit observations. I was advised to moderate disciplinary language moving forward. I am considering requesting mandated coping skills counseling for Elliot, because clearly handling discomfort is something he resists. Do I regret holding him accountable? No. Do I regret not anticipating this overreaction from others? Perhaps. The world has become so concerned with protecting feelings that we are forgetting to build character. Everyone is focused on, he's fragile. Nobody is asking why a 13-year-old boy defaults to cruelty when slighted by girls. Nobody is acknowledging that discipline was preventing escalation, and the moment it was interrupted, he ran straight into a victim narrative. So here I am, being painted as a monster for refusing to let my son be ruled by impulses, physical or emotional. Am I truly the one in the wrong for trying to raise a controlled, respectful man instead of another excuse-filled statistic? Comments. Comment 1. You're talking about your son like he's a science project gone wrong, not a living, breathing kid going through puberty and trying to survive a storm of changes in his brain and body. Your obsession with control is so pathological. You're not even parenting anymore, you're engineering. And you failed to even consider the most basic emotional needs along the way. This kid got bullied by his classmates' girls mocking him for something incredibly personal and humiliating, and your takeaway was, "I told you this would happen." Also, let's be honest, you don't understand male biology. You understand how to use shame and obedience as weapons. Your whole journal punishment system is a trauma response masquerading as structure. You're not teaching him control, you're teaching him that love is conditional on compliance, which is how we get emotionally stunted men who can't process rejection without collapsing or exploding. You want a respectful son? Try showing him what respect looks like first. Comment 2. I'm a secondary school teacher. I've worked with difficult kids, broken kids, bullies, and the ones that fall through every crack because nobody knows how to reach them. And I'm telling you, You are actively manufacturing a mental health crisis in your son. Every intervention you described is something I've seen before it turns into permanent damage. Forced journaling about being disgusting, scripted apologies that must meet your emotional standards. Your mum lecturing him while he watches her faint from stress. That's not a parenting plan. That's emotional warfare. You talk about raising a respectful man, but you're ignoring the most basic foundation of respect: dignity. You stripped him of it and then punished him for reacting like a cornered animal. And now he's in the counselor's office, writing that he doesn't want to exist. If you think that's emotional manipulation, you have no business raising a child through adolescence. I hope the courts and child services step in, because frankly, this is exactly the kind of home environment that turns bright kids into statistics. Comment 3. I'm not here to debate your parenting philosophy that ship sailed. I'm here to tell you that your update reads like a legal case study in how to lose custody fast. You documented emotional degradation, disgusting, shame-based discipline, physical risk to other family members, grandma's collapse mid-discipline, clear signs of mental health, distress, self-harm writing, direct defiance of therapeutic and school interventions, a child fleeing your home midweek, a child services inquiry. That's not the system overreacting. That's a pattern of escalating dysfunction, and the school covered their legal bases by reporting it. You can insist you're right until you're blue in the face, but you've created a paper trail where you come off like a walking case for overbearing parental control. Also, courts hate when a parent undermines a child's therapy or support team. The way you dismissed the school counselor's assessment. Huge red flag. You're not just losing ground, you're actively proving your ex's case. This isn't discipline. This is self-destruction wrapped in superiority. And your son is the collateral damage. Update. I've lost custody. That's the short version. Elliot's father was granted full residential custody last week. I've been given supervised visitation for now, pending emotional readiness and restorative bonding, as the judge put it. There's talk of therapy requirements before I'm allowed unsupervised contact. It's absurd. I haven't harmed my son. I corrected him. There's a difference. This was not a clean hearing. The school submitted documentation, journal samples, counselor notes, and the safeguarding concern. I was painted as a parent, fixated on control and morality at the expense of psychological safety. They used my own words, disgusting, instincts must be suppressed, and fear builds accountability, out of context, of course. The court treated those entries like evidence of abuse instead of structured parenting. Elliot didn't testify directly, but excerpts of his counselor's notes were read aloud. He feels afraid to speak around her. He associates correction with worthlessness. It's textbook reframing. He never said those things to me. I was asked to undergo a psychological evaluation, which I complied with. The report said I have rigid cognitive frameworks around discipline, gender roles, and emotional tolerance. Apparently, that's a flaw now. Apparently, wanting your child to master his body, emotions, and respect for others is now developmentally aggressive. They've given his father total legal and medical decision-making. Elliot will now attend counseling weekly. I've been barred from attending those sessions. Any letters or gifts I send must be reviewed by the therapist and father before reaching him, if at all. I haven't spoken to my mother about this in detail. She's still recovering after her health scare. I don't want to distress her further. She was one of the only people who understood what I was trying to do. She knew what uncorrected male arrogance turns into. She saw the way Elliot dismissed her, rolled his eyes while she spoke, mumbled under his breath, and tried to help. That stress cost her a hospital visit. I won't put another ounce of this on her. After the court ruling, I wrote Elliot a letter. I told him that I only ever wanted to make him strong. That I wanted to raise a boy who didn't become another passive, blame-shifting man. I acknowledged that some methods may have felt hard, but that was the world preparing him for real life. I wrote 4 pages. I gave it to his father to pass on. A week later, I received an email from Elliot's counselor. Elliot chose not to read the letter. He asked that it remain unopened. We are respecting that boundary. That's the language they use now, boundaries. No disrespect. Not avoidance. Just pre-approved emotional refusal. I don't even know what was more insulting, the refusal or the performative courtesy in telling me about it. Meanwhile, I've been flagged by child services. I was told during the court process that, due to the language in Elliot's journals and counselor reports, I've been added to their internal observation list. If I ever try to foster, adopt, or have another child, it will trigger an automatic welfare review. This isn't a ruling, it's procedural, but it's humiliating. I have never hit my child. I have never screamed at him. I built a system. And for that, I've been flagged as a potential threat. Socially, things have deteriorated. I've noticed I'm no longer invited to local parent gatherings. 2 people I was on group chats with birthday parties, school committees have left me on read. I logged into the class WhatsApp thread and found I'd been removed. One parent, a man I barely knew, pulled me aside at school pickup before the ruling. He told me he heard about what's going on with Elliot, and that kids remember how you made them feel, not how you punished them. I said, he'll remember who made him strong. He said, no, he won't. He'll remember who made him feel afraid to exist. I haven't spoken to another parent since. Then came work. I've been a teacher for nearly 17 years. I've had glowing reviews. I don't tolerate disrespect, and my classrooms are orderly, productive, and structured. But apparently, someone contacted the school board. Possibly a parent, maybe someone from the court process. HR opened a review into whether my home disciplinary practices reflect appropriate professional conduct. I've been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. I don't know what they're looking for. I haven't used the same discipline methods at school. I know how to maintain boundaries. But now I'm being watched like a threat. Colleagues have gone quiet. Some are probably relieved I've always had high standards. I don't play into the teachable moment fluff that gets tossed around. I teach. I correct. I move on. Now I'm being reviewed for it. Finally, there was therapy. The court recommended a parenting counselor for me. I attended one session. The therapist asked how I define love. I said, preparation. She asked if I believed Elliot felt loved. I said, he will when he sees what I protected him from. She said that wasn't love, that was fear-based justification. I left halfway through the second session. She called it a rupture. I call it nonsense. I've lost custody. I've lost my son's voice. I've lost my place in the school community. I may lose my job. And all of it because I refused to let biology become destiny. Because I held a boy accountable when nobody else would. Because I asked for structure in a world obsessed with softness. I know people will say this is justice. That I deserve this. But nobody has stopped to ask what kind of man Elliot will become now. Now that he's been handed a get-out-of-consequence card. Now that his shame has been reframed as trauma. Now that every instinct is an excuse. Maybe I'll never see him again. Maybe he'll grow up to hate me. Maybe this world will keep calling what I did abuse, when all I did was try to build a man I wouldn't have to fear. But I stand by what I did. Even if I've lost everything. Let that be on record. Second story. My family forced me to divorce my husband after he lost his job. I didn't listen to them because all my family members were cheaters. Now I'm regretting not divorcing my husband sooner. My husband, let's call him Nate, and I have been together for 10 years and married for 4 years. We've been having a rough couple of years, and basically everyone I am close to is telling me to get divorced. Nate and I have known each other since we were 14 and 15. We were best friends first and basically inseparable, and started dating near the end of high school. As far as our relationship, everything was great. He treated me amazingly, always with the most respect, going out on dates frequently, buying each other gifts, taking many vacations together, etc. When we first got engaged, things were a bit rough. But we spent many nights having long discussions and worked through those issues. However, over the last couple of years, we've been having a hard time. Nate lost his job in 2022, and I think this set us on a collision course. Ever since then, he's had a hard time keeping a job. He frequently goes to temp agencies for in-between periods, but this has never been a problem for me, as he tries his best to make sure bills are paid. He always blames the jobs, but I have a hard time believing he's been through about 15 jobs since 2022, and every single one is the problem. Maybe some of them, but not all of them. Anytime I try to talk about it, he tells me not to worry, and he always finds a new job, so I've tried to stay out of it and let him figure it out. As a result of this, though, we rarely ever go out anymore. I could pay for us to go out myself, but he has expressed to me before that it makes him feel bad that I'm always paying. We celebrate our birthdays and anniversary, and that's it. I've genuinely been okay with this because I understand that we are going through something, but my family tends to make me feel bad. I'm very close with my family, and they love to insert their opinions even when it's not asked. They love to comment on how he never gets me any gifts anymore. He doesn't compliment me as much, and he doesn't really show up to family gatherings anymore. So much so that I've resulted in just lying about things I've bought for myself, like books, jewelry, electronics, etc. Telling them he got them for me just to get them to shut up. If he doesn't come to something where the whole family is there, I just tell them he's at work. The divorce comments started coming in last year when I had car trouble. I have an older car, 2010, and my engine went out last year. I still had about 4 months left on my loan, and interest rates were insane. So I couldn't afford to get a new car with having to also take care of so much of the bills at home. I tried talking to a few different mechanics, but I couldn't work out any payment plans, and honestly the lowest estimate I got was $9,000 to fix everything that was wrong with it. So this seemed like a lost cause. I ended up getting my dad's help for a new car. He put down $5,000 to help me get a new car, and this shook my family. The main question being, why didn't Nate help? I wasn't about to flat out tell them he couldn't afford it. So I did my best to dodge the questions. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Now anytime they could squeeze it in, they're telling me I need to divorce him. Over the past year, I've been able to get Nate back at family gatherings, but they've all ended with him being super drunk. Nate doesn't know when to stop. I know this about him. I try my best to cut him off, but I'm his wife, not his babysitter. I've asked him over and over again to not drink at these functions, or, if he must, to only have one. To which he tells me it's fine. He's an adult and knows when to stop. He doesn't. This has resulted in a lot of embarrassing nights for me, and just adds to their list of reasons to leave him. My family has never seen a healthy marriage. I have never seen a healthy marriage. At least not outside of a TV show. Any of my family that are married, they're all bitter and cheating on each other. I can't really take advice from this. I believe you don't get into a marriage just to jump ship as soon as things get hard. We are just going through something, and we have to work on it together. However, recently I've started questioning this, and I'm not sure if this is the right stance here. My cousin passed away recently, and her funeral was this past week. I was and still am devastated. Nate doesn't understand why. My cousin and I weren't on speaking terms, and he doesn't get why I would be so upset since we weren't even talking. At the funeral he sat with me, but he didn't speak the entire time we were there, not even to comfort me. I have no idea who he was that day, but this was not the man I married. It was like having rose-colored glasses taken off, and now I'm questioning everything. Now I'm starting to feel like my family may have been right all along, and I've been too naive to see it. I can't go to any of them about it, because I already know what they're going to say. I feel very alone right now. Where do I even go from here? TLDR. My husband lost his job, and hasn't been able to keep one. My family thinks I should divorce him. I'm starting to question if they're right. Comments. Commenter 1. Sounds like for 3 of the 4 years that you have been married, he has not been a good husband. Do you think that he may be dealing with undiagnosed mental health issues, which could lead to the job issues? I would make an ultimatum that he needs to see a doctor or therapist to be evaluated for mental health issues. The guy has lost 15 jobs. Also, if you have health insurance that would cover couples therapy, the two of you need that as well. You talk about staying in a marriage through tough times. One thing that you might want to do is to make a list of all of the things that made you fall in love with him. I would then go through the list, and regardless of the reason, like not being able to afford it, I would cross out all of the things that no longer exist. I would then add all of the negative stuff that exists now that did not exist when you got married, and any positives that are improving your love for him. If the person that you fell in love with no longer exists, that is a legitimate reason to leave the marriage. OP, yes, I do believe he may be dealing with depression. I've tried many times to get him to talk to me about it, but he always insists nothing is wrong. He feels like the cards are just stacked against him right now. I communicate the best I can about my needs. I'm always checking in to see what I can do to help, and if he needs anything from me, and he just assures me everything is fine. Money is a sensitive subject, so I try to avoid it, as he has told me it bothers him and has led to arguments. I love him very much and can't help but feel like if I leave, I'm kicking him while he's down. Before I started working at my company in 2021, I was unemployed for about 4 months, and he was my rock. He took care of everything, and was there for me with every interview that I didn't get a call back from. He picked up where I couldn't, and I'm trying to do the same for him as the roles have been reversed. Commenter 2. It sounds like your husband may be going through a type of depression. His drinking isn't helping the matter. Your family hasn't been right all along, but something certainly needs to change. I hate people who think divorce is the answer to everything. Divorce should be the last thought, not the first. Start with counseling. If he won't join you, go solo. Make it clear to him that your marriage is in jeopardy, and you can't save it alone. OP, thank you. I started therapy myself last month. Only had a couple of sessions, so we haven't gotten really deep yet, but we'll definitely try to get him to come with me. Someone else mentioned health insurance covers couples counseling, which I didn't know. So hopefully he'll go. Commenter 3. What I'm not hearing is what you are doing to fix this. Couples counseling to decide whether to stay or go. I'm sober and have been for a long time. Most people think that an alcoholic is drinking every day. That's actually really end stage. An alcoholic is someone who, once they start drinking, can't stop. So, cutting down isn't a solution. Quitting is. But he would have to want that. He doesn't. I guarantee it's part of why he loses jobs. You're hoping that he's going to wake up and become who he was. That ship has sailed unless he wants to do the work. The drinking. He is not working and taking zero accountability for his actions. I can't imagine, and I can hear that you don't want this life. The problem is that you have no control over his actions, and it's his actions that are destroying your life. Financially, emotionally, everything. You have to lie to your family to justify staying. You know the answer. But if you truly want to feel as if you've done all you can, then go to marriage counseling and make it clear that unless he stops drinking and he becomes a plus to your life, instead of dragging you down, you're done. The result will be the same. I think you know that. Don't believe it can't get worse, because it can. Okay, so I have been paying more attention to the drinking the past couple of months. But I honestly did not think it was enough to say he's an alcoholic. He usually only drank socially. But this started in March of this year, when he would be blackout drunk. No, he doesn't drink every day, not even every week. But over the last few months, the end result is always the same. And he doesn't remember the night before. I have alcoholics in my family, but they all drink every single day from waking to sleeping. So I thought I would have noticed the signs. Thank you for pointing out drinking every day is not always the case, because I honestly thought I was being paranoid hounding him about it. A couple of people mentioned, this is why he can't keep a job. But this is more recent, so if anything, I think it may be why he started. But I will definitely be talking to him about seeking help. Update. I've never done an update, so I hope I'm doing this right. A lot of people were asking the same questions, so I'm going to try and address that first and clarify some things. Sorry, this is kind of long. Nate was a mixture of fired and quit from jobs. He was usually fired for attendance. The reasons for not going are having headaches or feeling sick. This was truly unrelated to drinking. If he quit, it was for various reasons, but the main reason was having some type of issue with management. The drinking started in March of this year, and it is not daily, not even weekly. However, my main issue is getting blackout drunk when he does drink. This is not exclusive to family gatherings, but the embarrassing things usually happen in these cases. It's embarrassing the way he speaks to me. We discussed it many times, and it's always met with resistance. I have definitely been in denial of this being an issue, and the overwhelming comments have removed that denial. I mentioned it in the comments of my original post. But I have alcoholics in my family. But they drink daily from morning to night. And he doesn't, so I thought I was being paranoid about this issue. I don't think this had anything to do with losing jobs, but was picked up as a result of it. Many people said, I don't defend him to my family, and this is why he doesn't come to gatherings. I didn't talk about it in my original post, but I have defended him. They never say this in front of him, only to me. They don't treat him differently or isolate him or anything like that. I don't just let them talk crap, but this usually results in us talking in circles and me feeling like crap. No, I have never told him what they are saying. I am in therapy solo, but it's new, so we hadn't gotten into my marriage at the time. This was honestly eating away at me since the funeral, and my next session was 2 weeks away at the time, which is what led to my post. I do think he's struggling mentally, but I'm accepting there's only so much I can do if he's constantly insisting he's fine. Someone asked if he's of sound mind. Why don't I believe him when he says he's fine? I've dealt with depression and did not realize until I was out of it and reflected back on that period of time. Maybe it's projecting, but he may think it's fine, but it's not. Many people asked what he's doing to fix things. I guess the simple answer is nothing. We have conversations about our marriage where he promises to do better. And he does do better for a while, and then he just stops. Now for the update. I ended up turning my therapy session into a 2-hour session double copay, yay America. We deep dived into my marriage, and I actually told her about my original post and some of the comments that stuck with me. Obviously, one long session is not a fix-all, but it definitely helped me come to some realizations. A couple of comments we focused on. Me lying for him for starters. In the beginning, I truly did not have a problem with not going on dates or getting gifts, or even just the little things. But of course, over time that kind of chipped away. I guess about the time I started lying about it is when I stopped being okay with it. Someone said my marriage not working out does not mean I failed. Honestly, this broke me. Out of all the comments, this one really got me. I have felt like if I gave up, this would be a failure. I didn't get married to get divorced. I thought I would be spending forever with him, and I've definitely been trying to keep afloat a sinking ship. The therapist says I'm a people pleaser, and honestly, after everything we've talked about, yeah, that tracks. As for Nate, he's on thin ice with his current job, go figure. Even knowing this, he still did not go to work one day last week because he had a headache. No, this was not a hangover. He was not drinking the day before. I am 100% positive of that. I start work 2 hours before him, so I didn't know he stayed home until I got home. I snapped. I told him he doesn't get to skip out on work every time he has a headache, especially when he is already on multiple attendance warnings. I get frequent migraines, and I don't skip work unless it's literally one that makes me super dizzy. I take something for it and get to work because we're adults with responsibilities and can't just skip work every single time we feel bad. He told me I was overreacting, and I told him, of course he would see it that way because I sit back and let him do whatever he wants all the time. Maybe I did overreact. Maybe he did have a bad headache. Either way, I left for my sister's house to cool off. I broke down at this point, crying to her and telling her everything. To my surprise, although it shouldn't have been a surprise at all, you guys were right. They all knew something I didn't. My brother and sister have secretly been giving him money to take me on dates for my birthday and our anniversary ever since he first lost his job. My sister even paid his portion for 2 family vacations we took. I wasn't going to go on either of these vacations because I couldn't afford to pay for both of us. But my sister said she could tell how sad I was about it. They both knew how badly I was trying to make it work and were trying to help. I called my brother and made him come over too. I thought they would give me "I told you so's" or rub salt in the wound, but they were very supportive. I ended up staying with my sister a couple of nights and returning home Friday night. I told Nate we needed to have a serious conversation. I laid out everything I was feeling. I cried and begged him to go to therapy. If not to couples therapy, at least to go solo. He refused. He says therapy is a waste of time and money, just paying someone to talk to you. He says we don't need anyone in our business like that, and we can deal with it ourselves. I told him obviously we can't, and having an outside unbiased opinion may help us understand each other better and be good for our future. He refused. He really doesn't see how all of this is affecting me. I did get him to open up the slightest bit about what's going on in his head. In short, he thinks the world owes him something. When he first lost his job, he went to his parents for help. They refused to help, which, honestly, I'm not sure what he thought would happen because they've never been good to him or me, for that matter. He was going on and on about how his dad left his mom for half his life before they got back together, and he needed to make up for it. I told him he's not a child anymore. He's an adult. His parents don't owe him anything. To which he said it's the least they could do. We barely even touched the money bills topic as usual, as this led to yelling and things were getting heated. I addressed him taking money from my siblings to pay for dates' vacations, and he said, "Why does it matter where the money came from? You wanted to go out, and I made it happen." He doesn't think there is an issue with this at all. He told me all I care about is money. His love and loyalty are never enough. This really hurt me because it's like everything was slipping through my fingers before my eyes. In trying to be a good wife and supportive partner, I completely missed so many signs and lost myself. We are separating for now. I was going to let him stay in our house, but I changed my mind. I honestly don't trust him to keep up with any of the bills or cleaning. We rent our house, and the lease is not up until May, so I'll be staying there and taking care of everything as usual. He's staying with family for now. I still didn't jump straight to divorce, as I'm trying to get through to him, but I can see now this may be where it's headed, and I'm unpacking all that in therapy. Trust me, despite all of that, I still love him very much and wish things were different. I'm hoping the separation inspires change, but I did give him until our lease is up to show me with actions. Honestly, with his track record, I'm not holding my breath, but it's tearing a hole in my chest just thinking about filing for divorce. And well, that's another issue for therapy. Thank you to everyone who commented and made me really think about myself for once. Any advice for fixing a broken heart? Lol, but kind of serious. TLDR. I talked to my husband about everything I was feeling, and he dismissed me. My family was in fact just looking out for me. My husband and I are separating for now, but unless something changes, we'll probably divorce within the year. Comments. Commenter 1. Your family owe my word. They were giving him money to give you gifts and holidays. They knew and never let you know, hoping it'd get better. They are amazing people. And you are amazing. You did a 180-degree turn towards a healthier outlook quickly. You are right to kick him out and keep the house. He likely wouldn't have taken care of the place, leading to the loss of the deposit. Do you feel safe? Should you have the locks changed? Congratulations on shifting your perspective and seeking therapy. You did some hard work. Kudos. OP. Yes, I feel safe. Thank you for asking. He wasn't apologetic. If anything, I think he believes I'll get over it soon, but I'm standing my ground. After talking with my siblings, I can't ignore how much I've taken on to make my marriage work. It was wild hearing my sister say she could see sadness in my eyes. And although they assured me it was not a burden, I just can't believe they were giving him money all this time. Commenter 2. In the US, a person is likely legally protected to take time off for migraines. So regardless of whether his headaches were migraines or not, you totally can and probably should be taking off work for migraines, unless you are out of paid sick leave and specifically need the money since FMLA is unpaid. But we're not talking about you. We're talking about the two of you. So I say this because while he might be a crappy partner, this part of your update kind of sounds like it's dismissing what he's going through, which means there are probably systemic issues in the relationship between both of you, not just him. I'm possibly reading too deeply into it, but he may very well be suppressing something serious by calling it just a headache in order to not come across as weak. It would track with other issues with management, which are absolutely a him problem. But at least on this point, it might help to extend him some empathy. Editor's note. I am not a lawyer. That doesn't mean you should try and make the whole thing work. But this specific item probably isn't the nail in the coffin that the other points might be. OP, thank you. Yes, I use FMLA when it's pretty bad. But I have some decent medications that usually work if I catch it before I get dizzy. I've had him see my doctors and get checked for migraines too. I mean, I would hope he didn't lie to them. But the testing didn't lead to anything. Editor's note. FMLA = Family and Medical Leave Act. Commenter 3. He sounds like a freeloading alcoholic. This situation hurts now, but in a year or two, you'll realize you freed yourself. And you'll be so glad you don't have kids with someone who can't be bothered to do anything responsible. Commenter 4. Yeah, after reading all this, you definitely need a divorce from this anchor that is only pulling you down. He is a lazy, entitled alcoholic that thinks the world owes him something for nothing. He is the problem and always has been. Stop letting him drag you down. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.